students. For the second session of the day, we have with us Professor Pramil Tiwari. He is an alumnus of the Banaras Hindu University and heads the Department of Pharmacy Practice at the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Naipur, Mohali, Punjab. With 30 years of experience in academia, he has created effective networks with the practitioners at multiple hospitals for the professional training of the students. Professor Tiwari has mentored over 150 MPharm students and doctoral students. His research group has more than 200 accepted abstract presentations in various national and international scientific meetings, multiple pharmacy-centric publications, and many book chapters. His research interests are spread over drug utilization studies with special emphasis on antimicrobial usage in hospitals, pharmacoeconomics, pharmacovigilance, pharmacotherapy in vulnerable patients, and use of vaccines and promoting rational use of drugs. His research group is also actively investigating chronic illness in hepatic and nephrology patients. He is a member of the core committee for the revision of the national formulary since 2009. A life member of 8 professional bodies, Professor Tiwari is also Honorary Joint Secretary of India Chapter of ISPOR at Naipur, Mohali. He is the faculty advisor of the student chapter of ISPOR. Professor Tiwari has the exposure of working in cross-cultural settings within the country and abroad. In addition to English and Hindi, he speaks and understands Gujarati, Punjabi, and Arabic. This short introduction, I invite Professor Tiwari to deliver his lecture. Professor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning, and it was a pleasure listening to that exceptional introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen on board and everyone on the YouTube, if you are listening to me. The topic that I have chosen to discuss with you is regulatory aspects of Ayurvedic medicines. And in doing so, in the next 1 hour's time, I shall attempt that we touch upon the fundamentals of Ayurveda and then move over to understand how the regulations for Ayurvedic medicines stand. In over tea or over a drawing room or a living room discussions, it's very easy for anyone to say that Ayurvedic medicines do not work. Ayurvedic medicines can be manufactured by anyone, and this array of responses is everywhere around the country. So I think at the end of this discussion, I'll try to dispel some of those misconceptions that exist amongst you and me. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I was exactly in the same thoughts like many of you. But then, as introduced over last 30 years of time, I had opportunity to work in multiple settings. And I consider myself blessed that from every single meeting, every single organization, I walked out as with a lot of learning there. I think with that little introduction, currently for the last 20 years, I work in this institution, which is National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. And I shall make an attempt to share my slides, actually. Can someone there let me know if the slides are visible?
Yes, Professor.
Is that?
Yes.
I think that's a big relief because, yes. So, I shall choose to talk to my audience, and slides are only for reading for the interested audience. Fundamental point that comes to my mind, sorry, is why are we discussing this today? Ayurveda has existed for a very long period of time. I'm not going to be getting into numbers. And our country has a very rich heritage of home remedies. Practically anything you can imagine as a remedy is available in the kitchen. And I'm talking about something as simple as garlic, something as simple as a herbal tea, and variety of things that we have used in the last 2 years of time to keep ourselves better, to keep ourselves healthier, to keep ourselves more better, to have a better immune system. And it has its own risks. So I think the very first takeaway is this thought that if it is herbal, it is safe. I think that is absolutely misplaced thought. I had opportunity to work with a drug called morphine. And you all know morphine is a plant-derived product, and it is one of the most dangerous products in pharmacology that you can think of. So this belief that if it is a plant origin, it is going to be safe or it is essentially safe, I think we need to take that thought out. So that is the first point. And I guess you can still see my slides. So what has happened over the years as modern medicine, and in fact, I don't want to demarcate, but as modern medicine has gone a larger level of acceptance, the Indian system of medicine I can call Ayurveda. It has gone into the, sorry, I think I can run into the full screen. Ladies and gentlemen, can you see the slides on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor.
Oh, that's wonderful. So the heading is why this discussion. So I was saying that as modern medicine has improved, or as it has come to us in every nook and corner. We have medicines in our drawers, we have medicines in our pockets, and we believe taking a pill will handle everything there. Contrary to this belief, contrary to this observation that we all have, and I'm talking about everyone who is possibly under 60 years of age. If I talk to people who are 20 years ahead of me in terms of time, they would still insist that regular exercise, regular dincharya, permit me to use some words in Hindi, and I hope my audience, you are comfortable on that. So having a regular dincharya, having a regular walk, having a regular sleep cycle, not eating outside, not having junk food, that is what helps them. And I'm talking of people at my age and possibly those who were born 20 years ahead of me. So this is a big difference. I can, again, put it as a takeaway in terms of approach. Let's see further what we are going to be talking about. As I said, we are going to be talking about the very philosophy, the standards that are involved, and then I shall be talking about the process of testing. And when I say testing, I shall be only touching upon the clinical trial process. I am not quite sure the audience in this cohort today, how well conversant you are with the clinical trial process. If it is duplication, I should be excused, but I shall touch upon that part. And I think I should be over and out in something like 50 to 60 minutes of time. This quote from almost 25 years back, the former dean, Sir Cyril Chandler. I want your attention on 2 words in each line, and let us look at it. Simple and safe. In contrast, today, we have medicines which are far more complex and far more dangerous. They have the potential to cause the danger. And I think while we criticize, while we are all praised for one system of medicine, we need to look back in our own experiences and find out which one do we want to opt for. So essentially, if I can say, why there is a need to regulate medicines. Medicines are not cosmetic products. Medicines are not something that I can exchange and I can get it a different one. No. Medicines, we all know, ladies and gentlemen, that yes, we expect medicines to be safe. We expect medicines to be effective. And we have all experienced that in the last couple of years. So any government, any agency, when it comes in for regulation, I think only one point I can say, and that point is for assuring a quality product. I'm deliberately not using the word good quality product, high quality product. No, when it comes to medicines, we need to be absolute. I don't need a product which is 70% good and 30% bad. No, I need a product which has an assured quality. And later in the discussion, we will come about what defines the quality. But as a user, I need products which work. And that's where we say we need products which are effective and which are safe. I want to underline all along the last 2 years, many of us and many of you in the audience, we have used one or different form of kadha, one or different form of giloy to keep ourselves healthier. And the inherent thought was that you can have it, it is not going to cause any damage. Sorry. In scientific terms, when I look at that, I would possibly differ from those who think the other way. Any kadha, or for that sake, I said garlic, it does have a chemical substance. And our approach to modern medicine is an approach where we try to look for which is the product, which is the component that provides the relief. So in case of paracetamol or Calpol tablets, we can see each tablet contains paracetamol IP, that stands for Indian Pharmacopoeia, 500 milligram or 650 milligram. In contrast, when we talk of a giloy juice, or we talk about a lauki juice or anything like that, no, this is a complex mixture. And having a thought that this is absolutely safe, I think there is a need to have a relook on that. So let's move further and let's try to understand what Ayurveda tries to do. I'm sure this audience today knows very well that Ayurveda is not a system of medicine, not at all. It is a system of wellness, and therefore it promotes dinacharya, it promotes ritucharya, and there are different parts. So an Ayurvedic practitioner would not look at the left thumb or the right thumb as one. He or she, in fact, makes an attempt that why there is an injury here and this injury. Just one. Sir, can I call you later? Sorry, there was a call. No issue. So, an Ayurvedic practitioner does not look at an organ or a body part at just one single part. They look at it in a very comprehensive manner, and that is where if you can see the slides, the harmony between the body, mind, and environment. This is what comes into play. And I would want each one of you to underline this word personalization, and we can discuss it possibly at the close of the talk. I'll be very happy. Mind it, those of us who are convinced that it is an established system of medicine would also recall that in Ayurveda, there is nothing like a mass manufacturing. There is, can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Good, sorry. There was a pop-up on the screen that I could not understand. So we move from here, and the takeaway is that Ayurveda has a philosophy of personalizing the process of healing. I'm not saying the treatment process. This could be challenging for many of us who have not studied Sanskrit or who have studied, who never came across this. I would want you to have your own peaceful time onto this. And what we are talking about here is essentially 4 basics or fundamentals, if I can call that. These basics are dosh, dhatu, mala, and agni. The philosophy that I was talking of, I want your attention on the dosha. Dosha is a fault. That is what the literal meaning is. And Ayurveda relies on a mechanism that says tridosh. There are 3 different types of doshas. And these doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So these are the 3 dosha. And the Pancha Mahabhut, this is interesting. The Pancha Mahabhut that we talk of are space, air, fire, water, and earth. No doubt, it can puzzle many of us that why we are talking about space, water, earth, fire. A little while ago, I said, Ayurveda looks into the healing process in relation to the mind, body, and the environment. The 3 doshas that we are talking of, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, yes, they do govern the creation, the maintenance, and also the destruction of the bodily tissues. And I'll take a moment to explain only Tridosha part today. We talked about these 3 different doshas, and these 3 different doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata is the energy of movement. Those who have studied Hindi fairly well would understand. Pitta, we write it Pitta, P-I-T-T-A, but when we speak Pitta. So Pitta is the energy of digestion or metabolism, and Kapha is the energy of lubrication and structural energy that comes in. Each one of us can be defined into this configuration of a Vata dominant personality, a Pitta dominant personality, and a Kapha dominant personality. And for this very reason, when the Ayurvedic practitioner says that you can have curd in the night and the other person should not take curd in the night, this is what the difference comes in. Many of us, we skip this part. We believe all human beings are similar, and we extend it to the point that we say because all are similar, so the same treatment shall work for everyone. And that's a big difference. I'll take a moment to explain the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha thing. Please take your time to read it. And I'm sure this is going to be very interesting for each one of you. I'm very much on the call. So 2 points, if you can look into this, are air and space. Vata is air and space we are talking of. And those who have Vata and Pitta, sorry. Those who have the Vata dosha, predominantly Vata dosha, they mostly would be slim people, energetic and creative. Please, for your own sake, don't extrapolate it beyond boundaries and don't try to classify, because this is the least that I can talk to you. So don't try to, but yes, anyone who is interested can get deeper and get into discussion with the Ayurvedic practitioner. And the Ayurvedic practitioner is the best person to say, to in fact confirm if I have a Vata pravritti, or if I have a Pitta dominant, or if I have a Kapha dominant personality. When we want to talk about the Pitta dominant personality, I hope you recall we talked about Pancha Mahabhuta, we talked about air, fire. Now, when we talk about Pitta, the ones who have Pitta dosha, if I can call it, because it is a tridosh. Those who have Pitta tridosh, or who have a Pitta dominant personality, they are mostly having a very muscular build, and they also tend to be strong leaders. Goal-oriented, obviously, competitive. These, we are trying to put everything in a very comprehensive frame, and I hope it's not very difficult. So, I'm sorry, I jumped Kapha. So when we say Kapha, Kapha again, try to look into the correlation with earth and water. And when we say earth and water, we are talking about something which is steady, stable, slow, cold, and soft. These adjectives that I used, these adjectives do not define people. They define the pravritti. And those who have a predominant Kapha dosh, they are strong and very caring people. Mind it, we are reflecting right up to the thought process there. Now, I don't want to get beyond this discussion onto Kapha. Otherwise, I think that's area. I think one last point on Ayurvedic fundamentals. We all know fecal material, urine, and sweat. These are wastes of the body. And this is the concept of mala. Therefore, Ayurveda, and I said earlier, Ayurveda is not a system of medicine. It's a system of living. And this says that in the morning, when you wake up, you have a glass of water. And if this glass could be a copper glass overnight, nothing like that. It doesn't say don't drink cold water, but it does say that fine, have water which is at ambient temperature. It goes on to say that fine, use a neem datun for brushing your teeth. This is all we know. And we are talking about Dinicharya, we are not talking about medicals. Well, hair is also a form of a mal, and through which the body expels the waste material, and some cellular waste that comes out through the nasal cavity, and the eyes and the ears. So this is the concept of mal. The human body has to be free of mal, and this is exactly what Ayurveda talks about. So I think on this point, I can walk into a new domain where I will not talk about fundamentals. I'm sure many of you have friends in a medical school, and you are aware about the subjects that are taught at a medical school. I intentionally wish to share with you the subjects that are taught at an Ayurvedic school. And we will have this discussion. You would see that of the 18, 17 different subjects that I have listed, there is only one which is in red color. And it is a matter of pity that those who know Sanskrit, most of those who know Sanskrit, they possibly do not know the modern methods of science. And I'm saying this with due regards to each one of us and everyone who is on the call or who may get to hear it later. And those who know the modern methods probably do not understand Sanskrit. And in my personal judgment, I am convinced that as long as this bridge is not filled in, Ayurveda will continue to be on the back seat in our personal lives. And if it is on the back seat in our personal lives, it will be on the back seat at the national level and beyond that. One. Number two, we talk about anatomy, we talk about physiology. I would want specific attention on point number 5, which says Sharir Rachana. Rachana Sharir is what is written. Sharir Rachana is nothing but anatomy. And Sharir Kriya is nothing but physiology. I further want your attention on item number 15, which is Stri Rog. In modern system of medicine, it is O and G, 15 and 60, Prasuti Tantra. So, on an overall basis, it makes a lot of sense to understand that those who study Ayurvedic system of medicine essentially study the same subjects. The only difference is possibly the treatment is different and the medium of communication is different. That is all I would say here. And this is important for each one of us to understand. And my take is that we need more of the Ayurvedic practitioners to understand modern methods and vice versa. Those who understand modern methods need to bridge and understand the fundamentals of Ayurvedic system. And only then it goes further. Otherwise, it stays a matter of discussion and seminars and conferences. This is a big definition according to the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which defines how the medicines will be handled in this country. And when we talk about Ayurvedic drugs, yes, all medicines intended, and that's a standard definition you would come across. There is a little part there in the last but third line, and that part is Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India. I would want you to know that for the modern medicines, we have the Indian Pharmacopoeia of modern, it doesn't say modern medicine, but we have the Indian Pharmacopoeia, and in the close to New Delhi, in Ghaziabad, the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission works to ensure that the modern medicines, which we see across board, which we see around ourselves much more than the Ayurvedic medicines. So there is an Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia, and I shall come back to that a little later. That is the book which specifies, and there are drugs which are called classical drugs. Let me take a break out from here. I can prepare tea with the basil leaves, tulsi leaves in my garden. But this tea which contains basil leaves, this does not become an Ayurvedic medication. Let's be clear about that. And I think because we're talking about relation of Ayurvedic medicines, so we need to understand what falls under this definition of Ayurvedic medicines. If I'm having garlic and ginger and paste something into that, no, that does not fall into the category of an Ayurvedic medicine. So when we say, what is a Ayurvedic medicine? We are talking about classical drugs which are manufactured according to methods which are described in the authoritative texts. And I'm sure this audience has heard of names like Sushruta Samhita. And not to go deeper into that, I want to extend this something that we get to see across. It is Ayush, AYUSH. And a few days from now, we will have the International Day of Yoga. So A stands for Ayurveda. I don't have to explain that to you. But when we say classical books, there are as many as more than 50 classical books for Ayurvedic system of medicine. I'm choosing to skip the Siddha and the Unani systems, which also it is not in the domain today. So anything that falls into these 54 books is considered as a classical drug. And those are the drugs which need to be regulated if they are being sold. I think now I need to understand. So fine. Let's say a person had a bad stomach and the person used a bowl of curd and the person skipped a meal and the next day the person is fine. But when we want to look at it in a very objective manner, we say, where is the evidence? So one person's evidence cannot be accepted as an evidence to be used for the masses. So is the evidence in the books? Is the evidence in the anecdotes? 2 years back, when I had a fall, I had applied this particular lotion or I had applied this particular, no, that also does not fall. Do case reports, case series, they form the evidence? Many of you will say, yes, they are part of evidence, but they are weaker evidences. So again, they are not accepted by regulatory authorities. Published articles, the opinion would be divided, but regulatory authorities may not accept the published articles as the evidence. And the last thing is a personal experience, which I said earlier. So now the point is, where is the evidence? And when we want to talk of evidence, we want evidence which should be objective, which should not be subjective. And that makes a lot of meaning because that is essentially what we do when we look into the modern system of medicine. Let me go further from here. And this is something interesting, and those who understand Hindi well will definitely get into this. These are some of the principles when we talk of evidence in Ayurveda. I would want you to read the writings in black first, and then go to the one on the left side. So the evidence which has a base on some therapeutic leads, this is what we call Aptopadesh. The one that is based on direct evidence, this is called Pratyaksha. And I'm sure this is not a very difficult Hindi. Something that one comes across by inferring in a logical manner is called a manner of Anuman. And that is, if this works here, possibly it will work into this frame also. And that is exactly a logical method of thinking. Upaman, that is comparative or a controlling design. And the last one is Yukti. I think of the 5 principles that are listed here on the screen, to me, Yukti seems to be the most trustworthy form of evidence if I have to choose one out of these. But anyway, because there is a system in the country for the development of Ayurvedic drugs, so we will get into that. I wanted you to know When we talk about regulation, I think a discussion on clinical research is important. And you are all aware, ladies and gentlemen, that the compounds which show good activity in animals fail many a times when they are given to human beings. And that is fairly acceptable form. So we do not have to depend upon the preclinical research. We do depend upon clinical research when we are talking about regulation, when we are talking about evidence. What do we want? A week back, in discussion with one of the Ayurvedic colleges around, this was a big matter of discussion that what are we looking for? Everyone knows this works. Dashmula Risht, Ashoka Risht, Arjuna Risht, this works. And one of the very senior experienced professors, he confirmed that, Dr. Tiwari, we need to have validation. It is existing, but we need to prove it that, okay, this is working, this product is working. And I'm sure some of you in the audience have used one of those products. It could be a Asav, it could be a Arishte. These are different formulations. And these are the 5 different areas of clinical research. So the very one that I want to stay with is the only first one. The other 4 are equally important. Possibly the second, if I have to choose, would be number 3, because that defines the standardization of the therapy. And it is simple to understand. A bottle of Dashmula Risht that is manufactured in Chandigarh. I operate from Mohali, which is close to Chandigarh. A bottle of Dashmula Risht which is manufactured in Chandigarh, and another bottle that is manufactured in Haridwar, they, in qualitative terms, they should be matching. And I think this is the whole line that goes for regulating these products. Let's go further. And some of the fundamentals, again, I am not sure how many of you have a background in biology, but as many as 10 fundamentals point, there has to be a research question. Yes, even before we think of clinical research and clinical trial, we need to look at minimizing the variation. We randomize it, we stratify, we blind it, we give placebos, we have a control group, we have a test group, and there have to be objective endpoints or the outcomes. And biostatistical analysis requires a certain number of sample that we are talking about. So as many as 10 different fundamentals point which go into this. And I have chosen the shortest form. We offer a course on MPharm in clinical research at this institute, where the students are taught clinical trials in deeper details. But I would want your attention, ladies and gentlemen, on the 4 phases of clinical trial. Interestingly, for some of you, you would note, and I would want you to note, that in the phase 1, patients are never exposed to the new drug that we are talking. It is only in phase 2 trial that a limited number of patients are given the intervention that we are testing. And this happens in accordance with all the norms that are laid for biomedical research. That's a different domain. If the results of phase 2 trial appear encouraging, the very logical thing is to move for a phase 3 trial where we expect that the sample size will be larger. So it could be as big as 3,000 or 5,000 and 10,000, depending upon the intervention that we are talking of. And once the phase 3 trials results are available, they are analyzed, reported, and this is what is submitted to the drug controller. I'm talking about, sorry, I'm talking about modern medicines, but the process stays the same. So phase 1 trial, phase 2 and phase 3 trial. And the sponsor or the pharma company or the manufacturer approaches the drug controller. There are specific subject expert groups who review the data obtained, and based upon the data, based upon the discussions, the new drug could be approved for marketing. In India, in the last 2 years, we need to acknowledge, we need to agree the way the drug control mechanism has worked to make vaccines available. It has been simply exceptional. The last part of the clinical trial, which we call phase 4 trial, is to obtain how it is behaving, because mind it, until phase 3 trials, we were working in a very controlled environment. But in phase 4 trial, the medicine becomes available for use to anyone, and therefore some very interesting results start coming out. So these are the 4 phases of clinical trial that we talk of. And when we talk of designing a clinical trial, I think 5 fundamental points: setting, population, subjects, instrument that will be used to collect the data, and what outcome is being measured. These 5 points are something that are important. And a typical protocol will look like this. I shall take a moment to get into this, because this is the basis for this is the last slide where I mentioned the 5 points. And if you can see this, it says clinical research protocol. It has a title. It has objectives, primary and the secondary objective. It has to mention what are the primary outcome measures, what are the secondary outcome measures. A moment to get deeper into that. Say if a medicine is being tested for reducing the elevated blood pressure. If a medicine is being used for reducing the elevated blood pressure, or it is an antihypertensive to be more specific. So my primary outcome is that the systolic or the diastolic blood pressure reduces. That is a primary outcome. But at the same time, I also know, because the drug is acting on this part of the body, there will be some more outcomes which do not fall into the primary outcome, which become the secondary outcome. As simple as that. The next thing is the population. Which phase we are talking of? I just now captured phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and 4 trial. How many places, how many sites? Is it only one hospital or multicentric? The design of the study, randomization, masking, duration of the study, participation of the volunteers or patients. Yes, it is important to take their consent. Description of the study, how much time shall it take to complete the study, and how the outcomes or how the results of the study will be utilized. This is a typical template that goes in for drafting any clinical research or any clinical trial protocol that goes in. Ladies and gentlemen, clinical trial protocols are not one-page document as we see here. Rest assured, they could run into 100 pages of document, and every single thing has to be clearly documented. I'll move out from here, and I want to spend a moment on randomized clinical trials, because when I said evidence, where is the evidence? The best form of evidence, as we know today, are randomized clinical trials. Whether it is modern medicine, whether it is Ayurvedic medicine, this design is considered to be the best form of evidence. These are prospective clinical trials going ahead in nature. Yes, understandably, a baseline measurement is done for all the groups. It can have 2 groups or maybe more than 2 groups. These groups are given the intervention or the treatments, whatever we are talking of, and the outcomes are measured. It could be one outcome or it could be multiple outcomes. And this is the gold standard when we look at the evidence. Still have to, I think it's falling on time. I did talk about clinical trial types, but I can run through this thing. There could be treatment trials, there could be prevention trials. And those of you who have followed this in the COVID time, you would possibly agree that we are talking about prevention trials. There are diagnostic trials, screening trials, and the last one is the quality of life trials. But I am deliberately skipping it. Now, this part, as I said in the beginning, it's very easy to say that the Indian government, or it's easy to criticize not only government, any organization, that this is not happening, this is not happening, this is not happening. Ladies and gentlemen, I want your specific attention on all 5 of these, and especially the last one, which is Central Council for Research on Yoga and Naturopathy. The government of India in the past few years has put much greater emphasis on strengthening the alternative system of medicine. It has been working with equal fervor, equal strength on the modern system of medicine. But many of you possibly would not have noted that in June 2014, the Department of Ayush was converted to be a full Ministry of Ayush. And no doubt that each one of this, whether it is Central Council of Research in Ayurveda and Siddha, CCRAS, CCRUM, which is Unani medicine, the CCRH, which is homeopathic medicine. There are councils, they are working, and it is my observation in the past few years, I have seen these organizations to be much more vibrant than what they were in the previous few years. And this is certainly needs to be acknowledged. But the point is, what do we do? How do we do that? I want your attention here on something. I said in the beginning, there is an Indian pharmacopoeia. And when we look at paracetamol tablets, I say each tablet contains paracetamol IP, Indian pharmacopoeia. There is a pharmacopoeia commission for Indian medicine and homeopathy, which is called PCIM and H. It had a different name earlier, but now this is what is PCIM and H, and this is again very correctly located in Ghaziabad. This organization, PCIMH, is a overarching facility for the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia, Siddha pharmacopoeia, Unani pharmacopoeia, and homeopathic pharmacopoeia committees. All 4 of them, this is the one that handles. And it doesn't stop there. There are laboratories for evaluation, for quality checks, whether it is homeopathic medicine or whether it is an Indian medicine. So this thought that goes around in the neighborhood, that goes around in our living rooms, that we do not have controls, I think that needs to be dispelled. I have made my little effort today. I shall imagine that those in the audience will take it forward as it moves further. Very few of us have ever come across these 3 publications. I deliberately picked them, and I'll take a moment, not because their names are important, because their relevance are important. And many of you would recall, I have been talking about Indian pharmacopoeia. I want your attention on the first 2 figures. One is a dark red color, the other one is a brighter red color. The one that you see in the middle, it says formulations. Look at the diversity, look at the multitude. We have in the Indian medicine, we have Shankhapushpi, We have ashwagandha. These are raw materials. We have Arjun, that leads to Arjuna Risht. So these are raw materials, and those raw materials are used to have a formulation. So there are two pharmacopoeias. One is formulations, the other one is for the pure drug. So simply speaking, how do I know that this is the correct good quality Arjun chhal? Arjun is a tree and the bark is taken out. So how do I know which one is the correct quality Arjun? And this is where the standards are laid. I'm sure you can see the Government of India logo there. And this I deliberately brought in because we need to know what is happening around us. And we need, I think that's as simple as that. I also want your attention, ladies and gentlemen, on these two books, and please take your time. The Central Council of Research in Ayurvedic Sciences, CCRS, it has issued a series of guidelines that you can see on this screen. This is the first one, and it says General Guidelines Document for Drug Development of Ayurvedic Formulations. This is around an 86 pages book, which I have a PDF, and anyone can download it from the internet. So once again, for a third time, our thought that there are no rules or anyone can jump into this business and bring in a Ayurvedic formulation, I think that is misplaced. This is what I had used for my own discussion with you and presentation with you, because there are guidelines for evaluation of clinical evaluation of Ayurvedic interventions. And this is again a CCRS document, Guideline Series 3. Before I close, I would like to underline, in the olden days, in the days, possibly I'm talking some 70 years back, medicines were not mass manufactured. Medicines were prepared after seeing an individual patient. And I'm sure many of you, younger than me in this audience, you have seen movies where a Vaidya would evaluate a patient and then ask the patient, and it is at least in some of the Bollywood movies, ask the patient to wait and get into something and prepare something and give it. So this was a personalized medicine. Today, the scientists talk of personalized medicine, but I want your attention that this mechanism of personalizing the therapy has been very much there in the Ayurvedic system of medicine. So the biggest difference is Ayurveda has treatments for masses, but it doesn't go for mass manufacturing. And I'm not critical of the products that you see in your nearest chemist shop. Over a period of time, we have lost, the Ayurvedic practitioners again might have gone to the back, but we have taken a choice not to go to the Ayurvedic practitioners because of reasons that we know very well. But let us be very clear, modern medicine's medication, the philosophy is that if it works for me, if it works for this person, it works for the other person as well. So with this, I think I need to take your leave, and do let me know if I'm falling on time. I really need to thank you for your patience, because the diversity of my discussion today, I know it is not my hardcore domain, but over the years, I have tried to understand, and I'm still continuing with every opportunity that BIIS History program provides me. I get out, I find myself a little more wiser, than what I was before that participation into that program. Thank you, BIIS History team, for giving this opportunity. And I cannot thank enough the patient audience, but I'll be very much willing to take any discussion points which you may have. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor. The session is open for discussion. Students, if you need any clarifications, you can ask Professor Tiwari. There is a question in the chat box.
Just one sec. I'll let me. Oh, is it from someone in the...
Anjali Shah.
Just one moment. Okay, food intolerance. Thank you, participant. I appreciate your appreciation, but frankly speaking, I find I am not the right person to be answering you. And this is the best that I can do. I will not misguide you. I maintain that Ayurvedic practitioners are there. So this is a very specific case of intolerance. I can understand lack of enzymes. I appreciate your depth of the subject, but forgive me, I am not the most correct person to be answering and commenting upon that. No. Oh, thank you for your understanding. Thanks a lot.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I can only say there is no question like a big question or a small question. There is no question like an absurd question or a stupid question. I have been teaching for more than 32 years. If there is a question in the minds of any one of you, it deserves an answer. And I will confess, there are moments when I do not know the answer. I did that. I'm not the best person to be answering. So I know you come from various different backgrounds, but if you have any points, I'll be very happy to answer that. I know your time is precious and I don't want to eat out into that.
Hello.
Yes.
Firstly, thank you for your talk, sir.
Can you identify yourself, ma'am? It shall help me a lot.
Yeah, sir. I'm Ayushi. I'm from ISER, Mohali branch.
Yes, Ayushi. Please go ahead.
Sir, I would like to discuss a little more about homeopathy.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, I have heard about that homeopathy is a pseudoscience. What they give and.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it true, sir?
Some 14 kilometers from your location, and I'm being specific, from ISER Mohali, 14 kilometers from your location, there is a full-fledged homeopathic medical college and hospital in Chandigarh, which handles an OPD of at least 250 persons every day. Now, my only response to you, Ayushi, is if it was a pseudoscience, I take it from you. These are not my words. If it was a pseudoscience, 250 persons or 200 people coming into their OPDs every day would not have been taking place, right? You seem to be either a PhD scholar or a student there, Ayushi. I would, if I can advise you, I would advise, yes, there are literatures of both the forms available. There is one literature that says, yes, it works, whether it is any form of therapy. The other school says, no, this does not work, right? So while you work at ISER Mohali, try to find out through, you don't have to, you can do sitting it in your lab or in your room, try to figure out HMCH, Homeopathic Medical College and Hospital, Sector 26, Chandigarh, and it is not far off. I have worked with them for more than a year. I continue to work with them. So I shall leave it there. I would differ with you that this is a pseudoscience. No, the patients who get relief after taking medications, they are the ones who disprove this. Nothing else other than that. Thank you. Do we have any
Thank you,
further?
sir.
Thank you. No.
Any
I think-
questions?
No. I don't think there are any more chat. Oh. So we can call it a day.
Yes, Prof.
Team Srishti,
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you, participants. I do not know what had gone in, but it was a pleasure to speak to you. I wish there was some discussion, but some other time. Thank you, Team Srishti, for giving this opportunity. Thanks.
Thanks.